Thanks for joining me in practice today. I'm Megan. We're going to do a practice for the hips and pelvis, and it's going to combine three of my favorite styles of body prayer practice. The first one we'll be doing is some somatics, and that's meant to wake up the muscles around the hips. What we sometimes find is that certain muscles are always working and might be one side versus the other, so that they're chronically tight, and that can cause pain. Versus the other side is there might be muscles that are always on vacation that aren't turning on when you need them to. So somatics will help us to bring balance back and wake up the muscles around the pelvis. Then after that, we're going to do some slow flow to nice joint mobility and a little bit of strengthening, a little balance. And then we're going to finish with a few yin stretches today. So you will want some blocks and a strap. It's a cool morning here in Wisconsin. As we approach the solstice, I hope you're all enjoying the long days, long light. So we're going to come down onto our backs and just take a moment. If you'd like, you can take a full body stretch, reach your legs out and your arms, tighten the muscles to the bone. So notice what that feels like. It's an important part of somatics. What it feels like to tighten the muscles to the bones, to engage and lengthen. Big breath in, and then exhale. You can sigh and let it all go. And then notice what it feels like for those muscles to relax. So that is what I call the space of grace. We're going to start with something called the pelvic clock or pelvic tilting. And I'm going to sit up just so you can see for a moment that we have a clock face on our backside. Visualize for yourself, your tailbone is your 12 o'clock. Your right hip is your 3 o'clock, so the back of the right hip. The space just above your lumbar spine, so think low back, low ribs, is your 6 o'clock, and your left hip is your 9 o'clock. So as you're resting your body on the earth, visualize those 4 places on your body. Tailbone, right hip, low back, low ribs, left hip. And we're going to begin by moving our pelvis in this clock face shape. So find your breath first. Just notice your breath. We don't have to do the movement to the breath, but we want to make sure that our breath is keeping us relaxed. And then roll forward onto the tailbone. You'll notice your low back arch and tighten. Your belly will stretch. And then you're going to roll onto the right hip. There's your 3 o'clock. The left hip will lift and arch. Roll onto the 6 o'clock. Now you'll feel your abdominal wall contract and the low back stretch out. Then you're going to roll onto that left hip, that 9 o'clock. Notice how your right hip lifts and arches. And then back to the 12 tailbone. So think of gently taking your pelvis through this clock face and go as slow as you possibly can. The other thing for is that you're not holding tension in the legs or pressing into the feet. So if you are, just kind of let the legs relax. You can do some windshield wipers. Keep the legs relaxed and make this movement from the pelvis. So we initiate from the pelvic muscles. And we're rolling through 12, 3, 6, and 9. Just notice what that feels like to free up that space. Sometimes one hip is more reactive than the other. And once you've done a few in one direction, we'll switch and go the other direction. So you'll go 12, 9, 6 is the low back, low ribs, and 3 is the right hip. So just reversing that clock. And we're going 12, 9, 6, and 3. If I can count backwards today. Just notice what that feels like. And the muscles, notice the muscles that are engaging and the muscles that are stretching around the pelvis. So a nice little wake up. I did a lot of heavy lifting yesterday. We were cutting logs and stacking wood, and so this feels really good on my back. It's a nice way to just release your back too, this on its own. All right, do 1 or 2 more rolls if you'd like. And then we will be coming on to the left side of our body. So rolling onto the left side, you're welcome to use your left arm as a pillow. You want to bring your thighs up so they're 90 degrees from the spine and the shins parallel to the long edge of your mat. So your legs are in a 90-degree position, in other words. So we don't want the knees back here. Keep them all the way up and shins parallel to your spine. Stack the right hip on top of the left, and you're going to keep the big toe side of the feet together. Just notice where they're touching. And now we'll do this to the breath if you'd like. You might place your right hand on your right hip because we want to wake up those muscles on the right hip. As you're inhaling, lift that right leg up, and exhale and take it down. And just notice if you can feel those outer hip muscles firing or contracting, and notice if they release when you come back down. One of the things I encourage you to do is play with how high you lift the legs, because we have this thought pattern that bigger is better, and it's not always true. Sometimes you'll find that if you just barely lift the leg, you're going to engage the muscles in a whole different way that might even be more challenging for you. So we're just lifting up. You can also hold at the top for a few breaths. If you're holding, watch that you're able to relax that left side. Can you relax the left leg and just feel that outer right hip? Really strong. And you can do it through motion. So somatics is all about this big term we use called interoception, just being able to feel yourself, specifically through your muscles, the sensory part. What does it feel like for your muscles to engage? What does it feel like for your muscles to relax? We'll do a few more with that hip, and then let it come down. Notice where your inner knees are touching one another. And now we're going to do just the opposite. And we're going to do, on the exhalation, you're going to lift the right foot up. So that last one was external rotation of the hip. This is going to be internal rotation of the hip. The thigh bone is going to roll inward and down towards the floor on inhale, or excuse me, on exhale. And then drop it down on inhale. Exhale, lift up. And inhale, drop down. So now you want to feel that inner thigh engage. Should get a little stretch in the outer hip. There is an upper body portion that we add to this, and I'll show it to you if you'd like to add it. You're going to take your right arm and wrap it around. When you wrap it around, imagine that you're putting a headband on your head. So we don't want the hand behind the head or in the front, but fingertips right above the ear and elbow pointing up. So the shoulder, the right shoulder is still stacked on top of the left, not falling forward. And now, as we exhale, not only lifting the foot, but lift your head up and feel the contraction through your side body. And then inhale, come down. You might even stretch your side, lifting the rib cage. Exhale. So we let the hip move in conjunction with the torso. Inhale, stretch that right side open. Feel your right hip lengthen away from the armpit. Exhale, armpit towards the hip, and foot lifts internal rotation of the thigh. Take your time exploring this, just letting your body wake up, let the muscles wake up. Again, this is an option. You can hold at the top. The other thing I watch for is that your head doesn't come too far forward. You are strengthening the muscles on the right side of the neck. So keeping the base of the skull back in line with the sacrum, especially if you're holding. And feel those muscles. And then release down, let it go. All right. Do one more movement down here in the somatic style, and this is flexion and extension of the leg. You might go back to using your left arm as a pillow, or you can put a pillow underneath your head. So extension, understanding what extension is of the thigh and the hip, is when it comes behind us. So think when you're walking, the top of the thigh stretches, the hamstrings and the glutes in the back side engaged. So that's your inhalation. You're going to reach that leg. And then as you exhale, you're going to draw it in, and even draw the top of the foot towards the shin and the thigh towards your ribs. So that's your flexion. And inhale into extension. And exhale into flexion. So think of taking a really big step. Starting with just the leg. This one also has an upper body movement if you want to make it more of a full body movement. As you inhale, you can sweep your right arm up, get that full side extension through your right side. And then as you exhale, tuck your chin towards your chest, bring the elbow towards the thigh, and round your spine. So think of the shape of a child's pose. Inhale and extend. Front body opens, back body shortens. And exhale, draw in. So let your spine go through these undulations like a cat-cow. Inhale is your cow and exhale is your cat. But letting the thigh move with the spine. Always the option to stop and hold, either in the contraction or in the extension. And it's not just hip, though we're focusing on hip. Notice your knee and your ankle can come into flexion, just as your knee and ankle are coming into extension. One more round. All right. And just pause on your side for a moment. I'm gonna switch sides so I can see you. If you need to do the same thing to see the camera, you can do that, see your video. So coming on to my right side. Into my dog pile. Bring the knees up so they're 90 degrees from the spine, and then the shins are parallel to the spine or parallel to the long edge of your mat. Stacking the left shoulder on top of the right shoulder and left hip on top of the right. So we don't want the hip falling forward or the shoulder falling forward or back. Feel where the big toe side of your feet are touching. As you take a breath in, lift that top left knee. You might want to keep a hand, think of your hand like a handle, and you want to activate that outer hip. And then exhale, slowly come down. So we don't want to just drop it. Release that contraction and feel it all the way to the bottom as it lets go. Inhale, lifting up, and exhale, dropping down. Just waking up those outer hip muscles. So these are the muscles that externally rotate our thigh and take it out to the side, what we call abduction. Some of the muscles, you're feeling those in the outer hip. Lifting and releasing, or always that option to hold for a few breaths. And when you're holding, see if you can keep that left hip strong and sturdy and relax the bottom right hip. And the hold can be higher, or sometimes it's just a whole different feeling to keep the knees just slightly parted and hold. And wherever you are, maybe you're still moving it or you're holding it, let it come all the way down and rest. We'll do the movement of the internal rotation now, so feel your thigh. And now on an exhalation, you're going to lift your foot up and the thigh bone will roll in and down. And exhale, come back. And the other thing we watch for is that that top foot doesn't go back or forward. Keep the feet in the same line even as you lift on exhale. And slowly drop down on inhale. Just the foot first. Feeling the muscles in the thigh, the hip. Then if you want to add the head to this one, you can take your left hand, wrap it around so that the fingers are just above the top of the ear, elbow pointing up towards the sky, so like you're putting a headband on. And as you exhale, draw your armpit towards your waist towards your armpit as you lift the foot up. Inhale, come down. You might even lift your rib cage and draw your elbow and hip away from one another. Stretch out that left side. Exhale, contract the left side. Roll that thigh in. Inhale, extend the left side. You might feel your right waist arch away from the floor. Exhale, lift. Watch the head's not coming forward. Keep the chin back so the front of the throat is spacious. If you'd like, you can do one or two more. Remember the option to stop and hold and feel. See what's tight that doesn't need to be, if there's any muscles contracting, so relaxing that bottom right leg. You might feel the muscles in the left side of the neck. And if you're holding wherever you are, come down. Release, relax. Flexion and extension of the left hip. So lift that left leg up first so that the knee's about at the height of the hip, and you're going to take it behind you. You can reach your toes, reach through your knee and your thigh. As you exhale, flex the top of the foot towards the shin, bend your knee, draw the thigh towards your ribs. It's like your thigh and your ribs are stuck together at the bottom of the exhale. Top of the inhale, they're as far from each other as possible. Stretch it out. Exhale, pull it towards you. And you're still just noticing the muscles. Can you feel when your glutes and your hamstrings tighten and engage on the inhale? Can you feel the front of the thigh engage, maybe even the abdominal wall on exhale? If you want to add the arm to this, you can sweep your left arm up overhead on inhale. And exhale, elbow to the knee. Might even bring the head in. You just have to check that if anytime we add the neck that it doesn't cause pain. Or if you have anything going on in your neck that's contraindicated, just leave the head where it is. Stretch fully through that left side. And then tighten it in. So finding your range of motion, but through awareness of the movement of the muscles. And then you can stop and hold any of these that you'd like. Checking in with your breath. Last one. And letting it land. All right, take a moment. I'm going to start to slowly unlayer as we move more and it warms up. We're going to be coming up to all fours. Leaving our somatics practice and moving towards a slow flow. So finding all fours. Think of the clock face we did earlier. We had the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9. And try to move that 12, 3, 6, 9 just like you did on the floor, but now you might sense it more from your abdomen. You'll have more range of motion because the earth's not under you. But 12 can be tailbone down towards the floor. 3 can be shift the right hip to the right side. 6 can be drop the belly. And 9 can be shifting over to the left hip. But you don't have to be that meticulous about it. Just play with it. Doing the clock face on the, just facing down towards the earth. And you can switch the direction again too. Go 12, 9, 6, 3, and back to 12. Arms are sturdy and strong. And sometimes you want to take more movement into it, meaning taking the hips back towards the heels. Just make it nice and watery. Exploring that movement through the pelvis. Let your head and neck respond if it would like to. And then coming back to a space where your knees are underneath your hips. You're going to bring that left foot forward. This is where blocks can come in handy. Thank you, Bodhi. You can take your hands to blocks. Take it back and forth a little bit. So now you're going to get a nice stretch through that front right thigh. So sensing that the front leg is in flexion, the back leg is in extension. So 2 of those movements we just did in somatics right here in movement in our low lunge, right? Back and forth and side to side. We're going to be doing this pose in flow. Just want to get familiar with it. And when we do it in flow, your hands can either be on the blocks, you can keep fingers on the floor, hands to the thigh. One of my favorites, hands on the low back just to get a little more chest expansion, or if it's comfortable and you feel stable. So the further your hands go from your body, the more you have to stabilize from the legs. So if I want to stay down here, I can get into a deeper stretch because I got my arms supporting me. As my hands leave the earth, my legs have to support me. So if I want to come up here, I need to do a little less stretchy and more stability. And that's some options for you. Feeling out your lunge. Here, or here, or here. Take the hands back down. Take that left knee back next to the right knee. We're going to spread our fingers out, come into down dog this time. So spread the fingers, roll the toes under, lift the hips up, bend the knees, and get the spine long first. Feel free to walk it out. And usually when we walk it out, you'll see the knees bending. That usually feels nice, more like a bicycle pedal movement. The other thing you can do is keep your legs more in a straight position, not locking your knees, but keep your legs straight and lift a hip. Imagine putting a string on your hip and lifting one hip at a time. Notice what that feels like for the muscles in and around the pelvis and the legs. So versus bending the knees, lift one hip and heel at a time. And then settle into your down dog just for a few breaths. Let your head hang, breathing upside down. And then back down onto the knees. We'll explore that low lunge with the right foot forward. So coming forward, feel free to grab your blocks if you'd like. Maybe taking that back and forth. So now we're stretching the top of the left thigh. That's an extension, right leg in flexion. And just noticing those muscles back and forth. And then finding a place to settle in. So if you're looking for more stretching, you can let go. Just let your thighs fall forward and down towards the floor. If you're looking for more stability and muscle building, hug your left thigh towards your right calf towards your left thigh. So squeeze to the midline, and then maybe your hands walk back. Hands could be on your thigh, low back, or all the way overhead. Taking a few breaths. And the hands will come back down. I'm going to remove my blocks for the flow, but you may still want to keep them where they are. Hands come down, take that right foot back again. Plant your hands, walk your knees back, getting ready for down dog. Roll your toes under, core engaged, lift your hips up. Letting yourself settle in your down dog. And always know if down dog isn't your practice today, you could do it on the ground more like a puppy pose. Could be down here, more of a heart opener anyhow. 3 more breaths. Then we're going to take a slow walk. Feel your hands, bend your knees, walk your feet up to your hands. When you get there, take your hands to your shins and come halfway out. So give your back line an opportunity to stretch slowly. Big bend in the knees, shins forward. And then reach out through the crown of the head. Draw your navel center up and in, tailbone down a little bit so that spine's long but not rounded, right? So rib cage forward, tailbone down, and then lift the hips up and back. So you're going to feel a little more engaged but also stronger through the leg line and longer. Imagine pushing your inner heels away from one another. See if that lights up your outer hips more. Some of those things we did in somatics start to come back. The body remembers. And then you're going to exhale, bend your knees, fall into a soft fold. Press into your heels, and inhale, come all the way up. We'll sweep the arms up overhead, and exhale, hands back down. So we're going to do a slow flow with a chair pose here. So it's coming at the top of your mat. And I like chair because it helps to strengthen the hip flexors. Take your hands, and as you breathe in, sweep them in front of you, so palms facing one another. Reach up. You can take your gaze up, long body, looking at all my birds. As you exhale, sit down into the legs, just as far as you can go with still keeping the knees behind the toes, and then press into your heels and the balls of the feet and see if you can light up the backs of the hamstrings and the glutes. If your hands would rather be at your heart, you can do that. Otherwise, keep the hands overhead. We take that extra inhale. As you exhale, you're going to slide your hands down the thighs into your fold. You can keep the knees bent, or at the end of one of the exhalations, begin to lift that leg line up. If you'd rather use blocks, your blocks are there for you. Pull them in. Here's our forward fold. Now stretch out that back line. We're going to come halfway out on the next inhale, so hands to your shins or to the blocks. Monkey pose, reach. Long spine, so draw the navel center in to help support the spine. And then as you exhale, drop back down. You want to bend your knees enough that you can get your fingers to the floor. You're going to step the right foot back into the low lunge. Take a moment in that low lunge. Hands can stay on the blocks if you want to use blocks. They can come to your thigh or your low back, or lift up. We'll take a couple breaths in the low lunge. So remember, the further the hands are from the body, the more the legs have to work on strengthening. So hugging the thighs towards one another. Next breath out, take your hands back down. Step back to all fours. Slide your knees back. Draw your navel center in on inhale and reach your crown of your head forward, and then on exhalation, come up into your down dog. Or like I said, puppy pose if you'd rather. So we're going to add a half salutation in here. So next time you breathe in, come forward into your plank pose. Always the option to modify on your knees. And in fact, if you find you're hanging like a banana in your back, you're better off being on your knees. Lift up through your core center. So front of the pelvis lifting. This is hip work. This is the front, strengthening the front of it, right? So we're here or we're here. When we come down, same thing. We don't want the pelvis to land first. Think heart lands first. So take your knees if you'd like. Draw your elbows back. Let the heart come down. Tops the feet to the floor. Inhale into a baby cobra. Press the toenails into the floor. So now we feel that back line active. Glutes, hamstrings, low back. As you exhale, press back towards child's pose. Round the back. Stretch that low back. Take a few breaths in your child's pose. Inhale forward again, your knee plank. Exhale, roll the toes under, come back into your down dog. We rest here, or you might be in a more easeful pose. You could stay in child's pose longer. Lift the hips up, press the outer heels towards the long edge of the mat. You can sometimes put a little bend in your knees and just keep lifting the tailbone. Take the inner thighs back. Legs are super strong. And then soft bend in the knees. If you want to walk again, you can walk. If you want to start practicing your jumping, we don't have to make it to the front of the mat, but look forward between the hands. Bend your knees on exhalation and feel your balls of your feet like springboards. As you inhale, just take a little hop. Wherever your feet land, walk your hands back to your feet. So if you land in the middle, instead of doing this and then coming up, just stay where you are. We come into the fold. Hands can come to your shins. Inhale halfway out into monkey. Exhale. Bow back down. We're going to finish with the chair pose. So inhale, sink into the legs. Sweep your arms up, or hands can be at the heart center if you'd rather. So sit down, sit deep. This is a great strengthener for the legs and hips. Knees back behind the toes. Next, inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. So when we jumped, if we didn't make it to the front, now we have an opportunity to step to the front of the mat. Second side. Bring your arms up as you breathe in. Lengthen. You can take a gaze upward. Exhale into chair pose. Sit down, work your knees back behind your toes. If you feel like your butt's sticking out, then draw the tailbone down just a little bit to draw your navel center in. So we don't want that big banana back, but we also don't want to round our spine. So if that's the case, come out of the knee bend, lengthen your spine. Hands can be at the heart. Exhale, slide your hands down your thighs into the fold. Blocks might be there for your landing. Let that back line stretch out. Hands to your shins. Inhale long through the spine. Exhale, bend down again. Bend your knees, plant your hands. You're going to step your left foot back on inhalation. Take a moment there. Hug your thighs, and you can keep your hands on the floor. Hands to your knee, to your low back, or all the way overhead in your lunge. So think of the action of the hips here, even though they're in opposite positions, so very asymmetrical for the hips, they're trying to reach towards one another. And the pelvis as a whole is coming forward towards the front of your mat. So keep that integrity of the right hip drawing towards the back of the mat, left hip reaching forward. Take the exhalation, hands down. Come to all fours. You can walk your knees back, let your core engage, and then exhale into your down dog. As you inhale, come forward into plank. Option to drop to your knees or full plank. Take a few breaths there. So we're at the midline, hugging to the midline. Press your hands in the floor, navel center up. Exhale, keep that navel center lifted. Even pelvic floor can engage. So draw the pelvic floor muscles in, elbows to the sides coming down. Let the feet unroll, press the toenails into the floor, reach the big toes back, and inhale into your back bend. Wherever it fits you today. Exhale. Roll it back into your child's pose. Nourish yourself, let go. So any of those muscles you were using, can you just let them all relax now? You can even use your arms as a pillow. With the hands extended in front of you, inhale up to all fours. Drawing navel center in, roll your toes under, exhale into down dog. We're gonna do one more round just like this, so now we know where we're going, but hanging in the down dog for a few breaths. Get that hip action. Pull your inner thighs up and back. Press your outer hips. Imagine your outer hips are pressing into wall on either side of you. Push the outer hips into that wall towards the long edges of the mat. As you breathe out, bend the knees, look forward. You can walk your feet, or you can take that little baby jump. Wherever you land, that's it. Come halfway out on the inhale, hands to the shins. Long spine, lengthen the backs of the legs. Exhale, folding. Maybe there's less knee bend as we get deeper into the folds if your hamstrings are waking up. Otherwise, keep that knee bend. Use your blocks. Press into your heels. Inhale, chair pose. Sink the hips, lift the hands. Exhale, hands back to the center of the heart. If you're towards the back, step to the front. So one more round. I'm just going to give you a few other options in this next round. Coming to the top of the mat. Inhale, sweep your arms up. High mountain. So press your heels into the earth, lift your kneecaps. Reach your hands. Exhale, sink down into your chair pose. Sometimes in the chair pose, even when I've done a couple, just taking a little like a pulsation with the legs helps me to feel the muscles all the way around my thighs and my hips more. So just that little pulsation. Feel your feet. As you breathe out, slide your hands down your thighs, come all the way down into your fold. Blocks are there if you'd like them. If you're getting more active through the back of the leg line and it's responding to you, then lift the tailbone up, lift your inner thighs up and back, press those outer heels towards the long edges of the mat, like you're spreading your thighs apart. Inhale, come halfway out, hands to the shins, monkey pose. Draw the heart forward, head forward, just looking just in front of your nose. Exhaling, bending the knees, hands to the floor. Left foot will stay forward. As you inhale, step the right foot back, dropping down to the knee once again. So this time we're going to take this a little bit into a different version. We'll do our lounge lizard, or maybe not lounge lizard, but lizard. Bring both hands to the inside of the left leg. Blocks can be here. So if we want to look at stretching deeper, you can take your forearms. You could stay on your hands, but you could take your forearms down to the blocks. Whatever height you need them, right? That's why they have different heights. If it's available, you can take forearms to the floor, but that may or may not happen today. So just a little deeper stretch for that inner left thigh, right? Be where you need to be. I'm going to show it with blocks. So this is a pretty deep stretch. And now I want you to feel that left leg, and I want you to press the big toe side of the foot into the floor. Hug the inner left thigh towards your left ribs. So squeeze it inward as you press the big toe down. Let's say we want to engage that back right leg. Roll your right toes under and lift that leg and press through the heel. So we want to squeeze the left leg towards the left armpit. Draw the right thigh bone into the hip. Really strong for legs and hips. Long spine. So you're going to feel this one working through the thighs and the hips. If you'd like, drop that knee back down. We're going to make it a little bit stretchier. So that was our strengthening version. So coming into a version of pigeon pose. If you have a favorite way to do it already, then you're going to do it. But you're going to take your left leg, and I have very tight hips. I'm going to do my best to bring my left shin parallel to the short edge of the mat. But in order for me to do that and lay down, I have to put my weight into my left hip. I'm going to let that happen. I'm just going to bring this left shin parallel to the short edge. And then I'm going to slowly, might stay up on my hands first, bring some weight and stretch that outer hip out. And I'm stretching into my right leg to some degree, but I could also keep that right leg bent if that feels better. Really focusing more on that outer left hip. Stretching it out. Sometimes I call this pigeon prep or half pigeon. And if you're like me, I can sense right where the big glute muscles attached to the sacrum, getting a nice stretch there. If you want to be slightly active, then press the pinky toe side of the left foot into the earth. And imagine drawing the thigh bone into the hip, or you can imagine drawing your left hip crease towards the back of the mat. That will give you a whole different sensation. And then we're going to slowly walk this up. We're going to go into a seated twist. So here we go. Your left leg will stay where it is, maybe drawing heel slightly towards your pelvis. Swing that right leg around and cross it into Ardha Matsyendrasana. So for some people this one isn't comfortable. If that's the case, then the left leg is going to go out long and the right leg crosses. Otherwise, keep that left leg where it is. So left heel towards the right hip, right heel towards the left hip. And first just sit with your shoulders stacked over your hips, and your ears over your shoulders. Just breathing into that space, the hips and pelvis. We're going to take this into a rotation. So when you're ready, inhale, swing your arms up towards the sky. As you exhale, we're going to rotate first to the right. So your left arm can go around the front of the knee to the outer elbow. You just don't want to force rotation in the torso, right, or in the spine. So think ribs turn, shoulders turn, and lastly the head. Keep letting that right hip relax towards the earth. Now I get to look at my view out there. Last breath out. Inhale, come back to the center. We're going to counter that twist. So as you exhale, you're going to go to the left. Take your left hand behind your sacrum and right arm into the inner right knee. Press the right big toe into the earth and the right knee into the right elbow, and resist with the elbow so you get a little more rotation through the torso. But also you'll feel that right hip, outer hip engage. And then draw that right hip crease towards the back of your mat, even as you're pressing the knee into the elbow. So using your body for resistance, the elbow into the knee and the knee into the elbow. Last breath there. Breathe in, come back. There's no pretty way to get out of this one, so you can take that right leg, uncross it. Come back to all fours. Might feel a little imbalanced at the moment. Walk your knees back. Engage your core. Press into your hands. Exhale into your down dog. Down dog should feel like a nice stretch for those legs. We just had the knees bent, right? We're going to do that half salutation. Inhale forward. So now we want to strengthen at that midline, the symmetry of the body. You can be on your knees too. Remember, that's always better than dropping the pelvis, right? So lifting and pressing, drawing up through the navel center. Challenge yourself wherever you are today. So if it means keeping the knees up and slowly coming down heart first, that's up to you. Otherwise, drop to the knees. Tops of the feet to the floor. Reach the big toes back. Engage that back line of the legs. And then inhale into your back bend. Feel how the tops of the thighs are opening. Backs of the thighs are engaged. Exhale. Child's pose. Pull it back and let yourself take a little R&R. Think your body before we do the second side. Sometimes when we stop moving, that's when things get loud. So just noticing. That's a big part of our practice, is what we learn about ourselves and our thought patterns. Are they the kind of thoughts that are increasing your vibration? Or they decrease? I think that just like our breath, or contract us. And then coming forward when you're ready. We're going to find our down dog again, hands out. Dial those hands out towards the long edge of the mat, elbow creases forward, arms strong too, even though we're focusing on hips. Roll your toes under, lift up into the down dog. We can either walk our feet forward, or if you're practicing your jumping with me today, bend your knees, feel the balls of your feet like springboards. Look where you want to land. Bend your knees on exhalation, and then inhale. Float forward. Wherever you land, you can come halfway out, hands to the shins, lengthen through your spine. Exhale. Draw the navel center in, bow into your fold. If you're getting deeper into fold, you can walk your hands back next to your toes so your fingernails are lined up with your toenails, and press the palms into the floor. That gives you a deeper stretch of your upper back, and then also gives you opportunity to get deeper into your legs by lifting your hips. We're going to inhale into our chair pose. Sink your hips. So back to a pot pose of symmetry, strong legs. Keep the toes soft, so you should sort of be able to wiggle your toes or lift them up. But press your heels into the earth and the balls of the feet. So the legs are supporting you. You got to reach your arms up in your torso to keep the spine long, but you want to sit your legs down on the exhale, right? Last breath out. Inhale, straighten. Exhale. Hands to the heart center. We got to repeat side 2 of those poses we just did, and then we're working our way down on the floor to our yin. That's a little prelim for you. Into our yin poses next. So it's coming back to the top of the mat. Inhale, take your arms out in front of you, reach up. Exhale into chair. Utkatasana, sit back, knees back behind the toes, drawing navel center in. Your mind can be on the sensations of your body or on your breath. Exhale, hands through the heart center and bow into your fold. Hands to the shins, monkey pose, lengthen. Reach out through the crown of the head, long back. So think of your back like you'd be able to put a tray on it. Really long. Exhale, bend your knees, hands to the floor. Inhale, step that left foot back, drop to the knee. You're going to bring both hands to the inside of the right foot. You can widen that foot out a little bit. And then we can stay on our hands right where we are. You can come down forearms to a block or 2 blocks. Sometimes your forearms will comfortably come to the ground, then you don't need the blocks, but remember the blocks can be up higher too, right? So find where you get a nice deep stretch into that right thigh to start, but not so deep that you're in discomfort. And the other thing is we look to make sure the stretching is in the fiber of the muscles, not in the connective points up into the hip joint or into the knee joint. And then begin to press into that right big toe. Smush the big toe slightly into the earth. Hug the right inner thigh towards the right armpit or rib cage. Squeeze that leg. Then feel your back foot. Roll your back left toes under if you'd like. Lift that leg up and press through the heel. Watch it. We're not rounding our spine, so reach forward with the crown of the head. You got to press your forearms or hands if you're long-armed. Forearms into the earth. Feel your upper back engaged. Shoulder blades root down. This one's a little bit of work. Draw that left thigh bone forward, right thigh back. Breathe. Remember, this is our last workhorse pose, and we go into some stretching. Make it worth it. And then you can drop that knee down, back knee. If you're on forearms, come back up to your hands. We're going to do that half pigeon or prep pigeon. And take your right leg And you can roll onto your right hip and take the right shin bone parallel to the short edge of the mat. Whatever your left leg has to do for that. If it needs to bend more, then let it. Engage that leg initially, so draw the top of the foot towards your shin, press the pinky toe into the earth, and then you can slowly, I like to stretch a little bit more through this left leg, so I'm going to extend it more. Slowly rotate your torso towards the floor and put a little bit of weight into that right hip. So you might have that left leg more bent if it's too much stretching for that hip flexor. Otherwise, take it back. Half pigeon. Just feel the weight of your torso gently coming into that right outer hip. See what's quiet in you. Can you find any quiet spots? Usually the loud spots are easy to find, right? But find what's quiet too. And then we're gonna slowly come up. Press your hands into the earth. This left leg is gonna come around and you can draw your right foot a little bit more towards your perineum. Swing that left leg around. If this version doesn't work, the Ardha Matsyendrasana, then you're crossing the left leg with the right leg extended. So this is the second option. Sometimes this just feels better for you. I'm going for a little bit deeper hip stretch today, so keeping that right foot to the outside of the left hip somewhere to the outside of the thigh. Lift up tall, and don't force the left hip down to the floor. Mine tends to be a little tighter and lift, but just feel it drop. Feel the weight of the pelvis dropping into the floor. Stack your ears over your shoulders and your shoulders over your hips. Finding a long spine before we rotate. Think of all the weight of your upper body just falling into your hips. And then on an exhalation, we're going to rotate to the left. So you can bring that right arm around, bring your left hand, walk it in towards your sacrum. So we want to make sure we're not leaning into that hand. The hand is not holding you up, your spine's holding you up, and you're rotating around the spinal column. You can gently hug that left hip in towards your body just a little bit and let it fall down. But here you can even feel the space across your collarbones. Take some nice chest breaths. Notice the rotation in the rib cage. Last breath in. And then we're going to take a breath in and come back to the center. Take a breath out. We'll go the opposite way. So you're going to rotate to the right. You can bring the left elbow to the inside of the left knee and right hand behind you. You can be very passive or make it more active by squeezing that left knee into the left elbow, but resisting with the left elbow. Push the big toe side of the left foot into the earth. And even imagine drawing this left hip crease towards the back of the mat. So you're getting a little more stretching in that outer left hip, but still focusing on the rotation of the spine. Long, keep your heart forward. Watch, we're not dropping and rounding, shoulders back. You might lose me on this one as I watch my hummingbirds looking out at the lake, and then take an inhalation, rotate back. This time we're going to stay down here, so uncross your legs. I'm going to take the soles of the feet together into Baddha Konasana, but take them out further. And in fact, what I sometimes like to do is take a block between the feet. So you want your heels as far away from your perineum as they can be, where you can still either press the feet into a block or into each other. But I like the block, it's a little bit deeper stretch. Come forward on your sit bones, so not rounding into the back. Lift up tall. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Lengthen your spine, just like we were in all those lovely chair poses. As you exhale, come forward. So I'm stretching my inner thighs, but I'm also pressing my feet into the block or into each other. So there's an action in the inner thighs. There's also a muscular engagement. I'm initially going to fold forward from your hip crease, right? Fold forward from your hip crease, lengthen through your spine. And then if it feels okay, you can also fold from the waist and round your back. If you're in a position where this is feeling really good, hands could come to the floor. You could slide your forearms underneath your legs. You can also just rest your chin in your hands. Use your arms for support. So we're feeling that deep stretch, but there's that little bit of engagement of pressing the feet towards one another. See if once again you can find that quiet space inside of you. Take your breath out. Breathe in and slowly lift up. Undo the legs. Take the block out. You're going to want your strap as we go down onto the floor and finish with a few nice yummy yin stretches. We'll do short holds though it's yin, but nonetheless some yin stretches, meaning we can let the muscles relax a bit more if you'd like. Bring yourself down onto your back, and first we'll just do some windshield wipers. So I encourage you to play with the distance between your feet. It'll feel different for your hips if you drop your legs side to side with the feet together versus far apart. That's going to be more of a stretch for your outer hip. But just let the legs fall and flow. Make your legs like waves, that rocking motion back and forth. And this is giving your spine an opportunity to relax again too. And then we'll do our left leg first. Both feet to the floor with the knees bent. You're going to take the strap and I'd like you to put it around your heel, right on the heel bone. And take the leg out in front of you so you can get the bend out of the knee. So if we're up here already, it's really difficult a lot of times to get the bend out of the knee because our hamstrings might be tighter. So take it forward, press into that strap, not locking your knee, but soft knee, but extend through the leg. Feel that force of the heel into the strap and then start to lift the leg up to whatever degree you feel a nice stretch through the back of the leg. You can readjust your arms. I like to keep my upper arms on the ground. It's more supportive for my upper back and shoulders versus, you might reach up here and lengthen your arms, but then let the shoulder blades drop. We start from here. Get that left leg where you want it. And then if it's okay, extend that right leg out and get that nice stretch through the right leg, the top of the right thigh. And do so actively at first. Press through the heel, draw the top of the foot towards your right shin. And imagine working the back of the right knee towards the earth. So a little bit active at first. And then see what happens if you just let go. So let the muscles in the legs relax as much as possible. Feel your bones holding you. The one thing you might want to check for is that this left hip crease didn't crawl up towards your armpit, so you can take your left hand, push it forward a little bit, or adjust that left hip towards the front of the mat. Take 10 rounds of breath here. Try to let the muscles relax. The strap is holding the left leg. The earth is holding the right leg. So in yin, we focus on the connective tissues. Now you can go more into your joints. Most of the connective tissue is in the joints, tendons and ligaments, but also think of your fascial tissue throughout your whole body, that matrix of webbing that holds your body together. Feel the entire back left line of your left leg. And then feel the whole front line of your right leg. Finding yourself in stillness. Feel the weight of the left leg bones just falling into the hip. There's no force. They find their way right into the hip socket where they need to be. And then we're going to change this up just slightly. You may want to take both straps into the left hand. And I'm going to have you take your right leg, bend the knee, draw your right heel up towards your buttocks so you're opening into like a half Baddha Konasana. So drop that right leg open and watch when you did that, what might have happened is your weight went into your right hip. Well, we're going to fix that. We're going to bring the weight equally into both hips again, slowly. So now you want to be active again coming into it. So press the heel into the strap, engage the muscles in the thigh. Slowly take that left leg out to the left side. Your left elbow can come out like a kickstand if you want. So going for those inner groins, big inner groin stretch. And I'm active at first again, pushing the strap pushing the heel into the strap. You may find that it's more comfortable for your knee joint or your hip joint if you turn the toes downward, not so much for me. Upward internal rotation is the key for me. So external or internal rotation on the thigh will help to find the joints in a comfortable position. And now you should feel like your weight is equally distributed in both hips. And we're going to take 10 breaths here. As best you can, letting your left arm support the left leg, and the right leg can just fall open towards the earth. You can breathe into the muscles of the pelvic floor and inner thighs. Feel that nice stretch. Soften the abdomen, relax the low back. We cherish these moments of stillness. A lot of times that's when the things come forward that have been hiding themselves inside of us. And just accept them, invite them with loving kindness, whatever it is that wants to come out right now. And we're going to come out of the pose. So you can lift that right leg up. If you want to use your right hand to help, you can do that. And then maybe softly bend your left knee. We're going to bring the left leg back to position 1 with the ankle right over the knee and the knee over the hip, and the the right leg's going to go long again. So now we're going to go into stretching that outer left hip. And not so much a twist for the spine, but just stretching the hip. So you might even take your left hand, your thumb and index finger, and press that left thigh bone forward and pin it down to the earth. So I'm not going to let it lift up so much. And then I'm going to start to take the strap into the right hand and take the foot across towards my right hip. So I don't need to go very far at all. But I imagine that I'm pushing my heel into the strap, but my arms are pulling my foot towards my ear. My left hand is pushing the hip towards the front of the mat. So hip towards the front of the mat, foot towards the back of the mat. And somewhere in between there is this yummy stretch for that outer left hip line. And I don't need to go all the way up on my right hip, right? I'm staying grounded through the left hip, but everybody's going to have their particular spot where you'll feel this. Take your 10 breaths. See if you can let the right arm hold that left leg in place. Left hand, try to relax the muscles. Just feel the weight of the left thigh beginning to fall towards the floor, that inner left thigh. Remember to use your breath, the pranic breath. When you feel sensation, acknowledge it with your mind's eye. Imagine breathing into it, and then as you breathe out, just invite any discomfort, any tightness or resistance to leave your body. Even if it doesn't work, we set that intention. Last breath. And we'll take this into a more passive stretch. So you may even want to bend your knee. If you want to keep the strap on and take it into rotation, you can do that. Otherwise, bend your knee. And take that left leg all the way across. I like to rest my left foot on my right thigh. Left arm out at the side if you'd like. To get a little more stretch to the left side of the neck, instead of looking out at the left shoulder, turn your head towards your right shoulder. Pin that left shoulder down and just feel that stretch to the left side of the neck. Right hand can come in and massage that left hip. Notice the rotation through your spine. Let there be an ease. Go back to feeling the parts of your body that are supported by the floor. You can breathe into your left lung and ribs, your spleen. Last breath out. And then breathe in. Coming back to the center position. Take a big full body stretch like we started out this class. Reach to the legs and the arms. You can arch your back, tighten the muscles to the bones. Exhale, sigh out the mouth. Let it go. One more side to do. Start with your feet on the floor. Maybe notice the difference in your two legs. The low back can be long, so I usually lift my pelvis and take it forward. And then the strap is going to go around or over the right heel. Reach it forward first, so get the bend out of the knee without locking the knee. Push the heel into the strap, but then imagine drawing the thigh bone into the hips. So keep that where it is, and then use the strength of your arms to bring that leg up. So you want to find the right leg first before extending the left leg. That way we get a bigger stretch through the top of the left thigh. So find that right leg wherever it serves you. You can keep forearms on the floor with the arms bent if that's more comfortable. So what I don't like to see is sometimes people will be up here and the shoulders are like this and the head's like this. Relax your shoulders and your head and your neck, right? This is about the legs. Push the heel into the strap, draw it towards you. Feel the length of the back of the right thigh and calf, buttocks, that whole back right line. And then you can extend the left leg out. Do so actively first. Press the heel away from you and the ball of the foot. Work the back of the left knee into the earth and the back of the left thigh. So feel that spaciousness in the front of the left hip crease. And see if we use all that power and might to get into the pose. See if you can let the power and might part go. And just be. The weight of the left leg bones falls into the earth. The weight of the right leg bones falls into the pelvis. Just a place to be and not do. And breathe. We'll be changing to the second position. So if you'd like, you can take both straps into the right hand. You're going to take that left leg, bend the knee and slide the heel up towards the buttocks. Let the knee fall open. And at the moment, you might feel your weight roll into that left hip a little bit. We'll even it out by taking the right leg out to the right side. So go really slowly. You're still putting that pressure. You want to go back to putting pressure. Heel into the strap. Use the strength of your arms. Just explore. So you want to get a nice, juicy stretch in that inner right thigh. And we want to feel it in the muscles themselves, not in the side of the knee joint or in the sits bone. So one of the ways to find what feels best for your joints is to turn that thigh bone in or out a little bit. See what feels good. You can slide your right elbow to the earth. Find that place where you feel like there's equal weight in both sides of the pelvis again. And then see if there's a point where you can just let the left leg fall towards the earth and the right leg is supported by the strap in your arm, so the weight of the right leg can fall as well. Feel the spaciousness of the inner thighs. You might even feel yourself in breath at the pelvic floor. As you breathe in, the pelvic floor stretches away from the center of the navel. As you breathe out, the pelvic floor recoils back into the body. So that's part of our pelvis, very important part of our pelvis, the layers of the pelvic floor. Let the muscles relax onto the bones. Feel yourself being held by your bones. Shoulders are soft, jaws relaxed. I wish I could share with you this feeling of the warmth of the sun on my face right now. If you can take that image of the warmth of sun on your face, like it's gently melting me into a space of no resistance, and bring it into your whole body. That melty, warm feeling of knowing that you're fully supported with the earth underneath you and the sun up above you, warming your body, warming your heart. Begin to sense the left leg. You can either press into the big toe side of the foot or take your hand to that outer left thigh, lift it up. Soft bend in the right knee to bring it back to the center because we were out there for a while. Ankle over the knee and knee over the hip, so line that right leg back up. Take the left leg out long. You can put both straps into the left hand. Take your right hand and think of making that J with your thumb and index finger. Push that right hip crease forward towards the front of the mat and down into the earth. And then start to slowly drop the right leg towards, so that it's like the heel might only come over the left hip. That's okay. You're pushing initially, using the strap as a resistance. The right hip goes towards the front of the mat, but I'm drawing my toes towards my left ear, shoulder. Lengthening that leg. See if you can find that juicy spot in the outer right hip. And then hold on. Support yourself with the strap. Let the muscles relax. That warm, melty feeling in your outer right hip. And check for any other spaces of tension in your body that don't need to be there. That left arm might be active, but can you relax your shoulder blades into the floor, your jaws, eyes fall deep into the head. Finding yourself in whatever is coming forward today. Sometimes it's through the physical body, sometimes through your thoughts, feelings, emotions. Sometimes it's through the breath, noticing when your breath changes, your breath patterns. And then soft bend in the knee. We're going to take this into a rotation for the spine. If you'd rather keep the strap on and do an extended leg, you can. I'm ready to let go more, so I'm going to bend my right knee, place the foot on the thigh. Use your left hand to guide it over. Right arm out to the side. Keep that right shoulder blade on the earth. If you want to get that stretch through the right side of your neck, let the right shoulder blade relax and turn your head towards your left shoulder. So feel that space through the right side of the neck and that outer right hip. That whole right side body. From hip to neck, or tail to tongue. Breathe into your right lung. When you're ready to come out, you can turn your head to the center, maybe slide your right arm to your side, and bring the leg back. Last pose is our first pose. Not really a pose, but just a movement, a space to relax and become aware of the pelvis again. So think of that clock face, and let's do that one more time. 12 o'clock tailbone into the earth, 3 o'clock right hip, 6 o'clock low back, low ribs, 9 o'clock left hip. Just do some of those fluid, like watery, gentle rolls of the hips, and just notice if it feels any different. Are your legs more relaxed now or less? Do you have more body awareness overall? Just letting the low back relax. You can switch and go the opposite way, 12 o'clock, and then left hip pressing down into the 9 o'clock. Low back, low ribs is the 6 to the 3 o'clock in the right hip, and back to the 12. And just feeling yourself flowing through these gentle hip patterns. Patterns of movement. These patterns are happening all the time when we walk, when we carry logs, but doing so in a way that feels really comfortable and juicy. And then please find your position for Shavasana. If you like something like a Baddha Konasana, you could do that and put your blocks underneath your legs. So if you're more into stretching the inner thighs, I encourage you though to use the blocks, use support for Shavasana. My favorite way after hip class is just the opposite. I like the internal rotation. So what I tend to do is bring my feet a little bit wider, heels out, and let the knees fall together. So just that little inner thigh caving in. You can also take your legs long and into a neutral position. But take the time to rest. Whatever position you've chosen, recognizing the parts of your body that are touching the earth. Feeling yourself from the toes to the crown of the head. The fingers into the center of the heart. It's all yours. Enjoy it. Be present in this space. Body, breath, thoughts. An opportunity to practice using your witness mind, that higher space of awareness where we can experience ourselves in this moment without having to react or label, categorize. It just is what it is. All feelings, all thoughts are valid. But we also are not our feelings and our thoughts alone. And remembering that if something feels expansive, what are those qualities of expansiveness in your body? Is there a way that you breathe when you feel expansive? Is there a way that your body feels? Is it lighter or heavier? And also knowing what it feels like to feel contractive in your body. Just as our thoughts can contract us, the body responds with tightness, with resistance. Let all that go. expanding into this awareness of body and breath. There's a brightness inside of you that's yet to be discovered. And the discovery comes when we're still and silent. And the more we can let our mind become aware of our own thoughts and feelings, physical sensations, including the breath, the more we begin to notice how we react or respond to outer stimuli, whether it's things we read or people that we see and speak with. Recognizing what expands us and what contracts us. As you feel ready, you can wiggle your toes and your fingers. Once your knees are bent, you could do a couple more of those pelvic clock faces if it feels good, or some windshield wipers. Acknowledge the loveliness of your hips and this diverse practice we did today. Your ability to sense the muscles first, your ability to use those muscles in full function, and then the ability to relax the muscles and feel into the bones and the connective tissue. It's all a part of who you are, all those layers. If you'd like to come up to a seated position, you're welcome to. Taking my hands to my heart, honoring you. Be a good human. There's a saying that our lives can be either an example or a warning to others. This is a really pertinent time for us to be examples for each other. Peace and love and light. Namaste.